This is the Bored Cyborg. Welcome back to yet another off-the-cuff review. Today I'm in a new location in my home here, just trying to keep things visually interesting. And today I'm going to talk about a movie that I have been really excited to see. I'm a little late to the party as per usual. The film came out around a week and a half ago as of recording this video. And that is Godzilla. Gojira. King of the Monsters. I have a video planned where I want to talk about the 98 Godzilla, 2014, and this new one, 2019 Godzilla King of the Monsters, and sort of compare and contrast the three and let you guys know how I feel about all of them and, where they kind of rank. And that's a video I'm going to be doing very soon once I collect my thoughts a little bit. But I'm so excited that I had to get in front of the camera here impromptu and talk about Godzilla King of the Monsters. I also want to talk about my history with Godzilla, which I don't have much of a history with, but I'll get into all that, when I get to comparing the three American Godzilla films. So, this new Godzilla movie. How does it hold up in the series that is, 31, 32 movies long at this point, dating back to 1954 with the original Gojira, directed by Ishiro Honda. How does this hold up with all of the series, and how does it hold up within the three American, I'm saying three American movies, I'm not counting the original Americanizations of, Godzilla, things like that. I'm talking about Godzilla 98, 2014, and 2019. So how does this film hold up? In my humble opinion, as somebody who is slowly becoming a Godzilla expert, I absolutely loved this movie. I had such a great time in the theater. One of the best times in the theater I've had since, John Wick 3, I will say. But before that, it was maybe like Fury Road or something. This movie had me agape at multiple points in the film where I was just marveling at the wonder of these monsters banging out, fighting it out, which is something we didn't see in the 2014 one. Again, I'm not going to try to get too deep into the 2014 one. This is a video about the new one. So I guess I'll start with the monsters. That's why we go to see these movies, right? That is the reason we go to see monster movies. It's for the monster. The human characters are there, and a good monster movie knows how to balance the two, the human characters with the monsters. And in my honest opinion, this film nails it on the head. At no point did I feel like, man, where are the humans here? Or, man, where are the monsters here? I didn't feel that way at all. I felt that it met a really constant equilibrium in terms of balancing those two dichotomies. And any great monster movie, talking about Godzilla or Rodan or even Gamera, all of the great monster movies know how to balance the two, and they give us just enough of both. The thing that I love about older Godzilla films, and even more so the Gamera films from the 90s, is the stories are drenched in mythology and ancient civilizations a lot of the time and things like that. The Gamera films are really good with this, and they have this sense of mystic wonder to them. And I actually feel like Godzilla King of the Monsters took that sort of idea, that theme, that mysticism, that mythology. Maybe it was inspired by a lot of those Gamera films from the 90s, which are some of the best monster movies ever. So the monsters, I thought, were fantastic. I thought they looked great. Obviously, we're not talking about rubber suits here. We're not talking about men or women in suits. We're talking about full-on CG. And I thought the CG was really good. Solid. Now, they shot it smartly. A lot of the action is in the dark. However, not quite like 2014 Godzilla. There's a sort of illumination that they achieved with the action sequences, especially the ones that take place in dark areas or at night, and it made it very easy to see what was going on and the geography of the scene and everything. Now, we even saw some of the monster action during the day, at dusk, different settings. There was a snowy setting, there was a volcano setting, there was a water battle, there was a city battle, of course, and I really felt like it was diverse in its action. And the monsters looked great. They resembled their classic counterparts. I would say Mothra was the most of a divergence in terms of the way it looked, or she looked. I still think she looked awesome. She had this, whereas in the older films, she had a very vibrant look to her wings, and it was, you could tell they were, well, technically, moth and butterfly wings are scaled, but it looked feathery, it looked like it had a texture to it, and it was always vibrant and colorful, and that's what Mothra, you know, that's her aesthetic. In this film, they basically take that in a different direction with more of a bioluminescence, you know, like lightning bugs, that sort of a thing. And she is, you know, she obviously is an insect, a giant insect, so that made sense to me, the bioluminescence. And to be honest, when we see her in her full glory, I really do feel like she is quite colorful. A lot of blues and greens and white, oranges, you know, a lot of the colors that you would associate with Mothra. They're a bit subdued, but when she spreads her wings, you could see the bioluminescence kind of lighting up her vibrance, which was really, really appreciated. I thought Rodan looked possibly the best. I don't know. Rodan just was a great recreation of his older self in the movies. And I thought his introduction was one of the most badass, him basically busting from a volcano, wreaking havoc in this little town. Wonderful. There's even a shot that I'm pretty sure was in the original film, a couple shots, where Rodan's going over a city and you see his shadow. Pretty sure they did that in the original Rodan. If not, I must be misremembering. But I think they did that, and so that was cool to see the throwback. There were so many throwbacks in this film, by the way. His wings sort of had the power, you know, the power that they had, and more power than they've ever had, really. But Rodan's always been known for his gust, you know, his wing power, and I thought that was really awesome. Ghidorah looked wonderful, just magnificent. I thought his face was damn near perfect. It did remind me of Smaug a little bit, but it was jagged, it was very organic looking. Really, really dug Ghidorah's look. The three heads actually had personality in this. They reminded me of the Three Stooges. In fact, there's a little comic relief line alluding to Ghidorah as the Three Stooges, which I thought was clever, because there are moments where like the middle head is like bullying the left head, and it was really cool. They all each had their certain personalities, which I'm sure would have been quite difficult to achieve in the older films. Really, really came through here, and the way it moved, the way it crawled on the ground, the way it flew, all on point, all organic, very, very cool. Stuff that just can't be done. I hate to say it, but I don't think it can be done practically. You know, maybe on a whole nother scale, on a whole nother planet, with a whole nother budget, something like that could happen. But you know, in this film, it looked organic. We got great looks. A lot of the action is up close, but not too close. They really know how to set up the close, middle range, and long shots. There are some shots where the monsters, it's a wide shot, and they just come at each other, or it just shows them standing there, like, sizing each other up. Loved those scenes, those shots. So, obviously, I saved the best for last, the king of the monsters. All hail the king, Godzilla. He's back in full effect, I will say. He is busting ass, breathing his atomic breath. I'm not going to spoil it, but he has sort of an evolution towards the end of the film. We even get to find out where Godzilla lives, and it really blew me away. So I'm really into ancient civilizations and things like Atlantis, the idea of Atlantis and a lost civilization, all that. And this movie really delves into that, which I dug. I don't want to get too deep into it, but it plays on the stuff that was set up in the 2014 one with the Hollow Earth theory. And we get to see where Godzilla dwells. And that was awesome to get an insight into the mythology and the ancient nature of these creatures. Also, Godzilla was the crux of the story, really. It had a lot to do with Monarch and containing these monsters and figuring out what to do with them, which I found really interesting. I mean, far more interesting than a lot of the politics that are laid down in a lot of the Showa-era Godzilla films. I still enjoy it. You know, obviously, I love all of those. I love all of the old Godzilla movies. I love almost all the Godzilla movies, to be honest. And the politics, I just thought, they've kind of done away with it in King of the Monsters here, and basically put it in the hands of scientists, and that shit interests me more. Granted, it's obviously a lot of pseudoscience, but there's some real science sparsed throughout, and it just kept me engaged. I will say that it gets a little busy with all of the displays and the HUDs and, you know, the maps and everything that are in this control room. It gets a little information overload, but it didn't bug me. It didn't bug me too much. So that would be like a minor nitpick. Godzilla is, like I said, back in full effect. The story focuses on him. He appears at just the right moments. We see a glimpse of him in a flashback in the first 5 minutes, which is great. Just a little glimpse. This is something that the 2014 one needed. I'll get into that in another video. But then, you know, 35, 40 minutes in, I tried to keep track, but I was in the theater, so it was tough. 35, 40 minutes in, we see Godzilla. And before that, we meet Mothra. So, within the first 15, 20 minutes. So, we're seeing the monsters, the story we get right into it. We know a little bit about the characters. We know enough about the characters and where they're at in their lives, what their motivations are, which are revealed more and more. And I thought it nailed the idea of getting the action going. I understand the 2014 one had to establish things, but I don't know how much it had to establish things, because everybody knows Godzilla. I don't think Godzilla fans will be disappointed with the amount of monster action that is in this film. The action is bombastic. It's loud. It's chaotic, yet easy to follow. It's intelligible. Like I said, the geography of the scenes is competent. It gets hectic. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of fast cutting at points, but you're still able to really latch on to the action and see what's going on. I will say, I guess, another nitpick, I wish Doherty pulled the camera back a little bit more at points, just to give the scene scope and scale. I think that could have been done. I think he could have pulled back a little bit with some of the scenes. Shit blowing up everywhere, you know, mass amounts of destruction. All CG, mind you, but good CG. CG done well. And there's no cutting away bullshit when monsters are about to fight. We see them fight, and it's glorious. And it does a really good job, again, balancing, going back and forth between the human characters and the monster action. I also want to talk about the music. Oh my god, I have goosebumps just thinking about it. The music is by far one of the standouts here. You know, along with many other things, in my opinion, the monsters, you know, even the human characters, I think, are such a step up from the prior films, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But the music, Bear McCreary did the music, and whereas the 2014 one didn't have, here I am comparing it again, didn't have the Godzilla theme, which is, in my opinion, a mortal sin. Like, you can't not have the Godzilla theme. It is iconic, for one. It's also timeless. I mean, you could throw the Godzilla theme from the 54 film into this movie, and it won't seem too out of place. So we have bum 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 bum. You know, everybody knows that. That's the sort of the march, you know, the foreboding march that we know shit's about to go down when we hear that in Godzilla movies. We also have bum 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 bum. We have that, but again, they're reworked in a way that it's almost, you know, it takes a true fan to identify those cues, I think. So we have those reworked by Bear McCreary, just larger than life. Again, epic is the word. We also have a beautiful, wonderful addition to the score, which is chanting, tribal chanting, which just emphasizes the idea of these ancient civilizations and ancient cultures and mythology and stories, something that I am ingrained in my personal life. I read up on this stuff constantly. And so the chanting, the tribal nature, whenever Godzilla was getting busy, it would have this hoo, ha, you know, very like Skyrim, very just, it's chanting, you know, tribal chanting that just gets you so fucking pumped. So we have that with Godzilla, which is wonderful. We also have the Mothra theme, which makes an appearance. It makes a big appearance during the credits, but when Mothra is unveiled after her, you know, she has her cocoon form, of course. She has her larva form, her cocoon form, and then her Mothra form, her moth form. And, you know, I don't want to give away too much, but there's a moment where she descends from the sky, and you just hear, Masuda! Like, you hear the melody sort of playing in the back. You don't hear the words, it's just the melody. Da, da, da! And again, it's reworked, and it just got me so pumped and so excited to see Mothra on screen, because I was hoping they would pay attention to her theme song, which again I think is immortal. I think it's timeless. So they did that, so I was just in heaven. That's how I feel about the monster action and sort of the film as, well, I guess I'll get to the film as a whole, but the monster side of it, damn near perfect. It's not the older films. It's not the rubber suit monsters that I adore. It's a new thing, and I separate those two. You know, we're in a new dawn of CG where it's just going to get better and better. Hopefully, hopefully with these Godzilla movies it gets better and better and more realistic. I think they nailed it in this. I think it's getting damn near close. But there's still a charm to the older movies, of course. I love the older movies to death. So now I want to talk about the human characters, which is something that a lot of people had a lot to say about the 2014 one, and guess what? I have a lot to say as well. I'm going to save that for the video, for the comparison video. But the human characters, immediately, right off the bat, in the first 10 minutes, I cared about these characters. I may be in the minority on that, but I don't give a f***. I cared about these characters. They're all competent actors. I guess I'll try to shed a little bit of light. Millie Bobby Brown was good. Very emotional performance at points. She didn't have too much to do. But each character, I will say, is succinctly written. They're given enough, just enough backstory, just enough depth. Some of that surprised me with some side characters. But Millie Bobby Brown was great. I just wish she had a little bit more to do. Vera Farmiga, I like her character. I think, again, her character could have had a bit more to it. I liked her turn. I liked her plight. You know, she's sort of a villain in the film in ways, but she's one of those people, one of those characters that seems like she has just motives for her actions. You know, there's a justification to her actions. And she's getting caught up. You know, she loses her son in the first minute of the film. And so it makes sense how she got to where she got to. She thinks she's doing the right thing, but is she? You know, this is something that's a common theme in the Godzilla films. You know, messing with nature too much. You know, that is what embodies Godzilla as a series. It's, you know, the balance of nature, the equilibrium of nature, and humans' fingerprint on that. And so her character sort of represents that, I think, in a really good way. Kyle Chandler was great. I loved Kyle Chandler in this, actually. I've always liked him. I think he's got a bunch of charisma. I think, I wish he had more lead roles, you know, because he is the lead guy in this. Not the lead character. It's really hard to put a finger on who the lead character is, because it's sort of a team of characters. But Kyle Chandler, I thought, did a great job. In my opinion, he was putting on his Indiana Jones hat. His best, like Harrison Ford sort of Han Solo, Indiana Jones thing. The quips were there, the wittiness was there, the stoicism was there, the lightheartedness in his character. He wasn't too serious. It was all there, and he also didn't die within the first 30 minutes. So I really liked Kyle Chandler's character. You know, and he actually has things to do. So then we have Serizawa, yes, Ken Watanabe's character from the 2014 Godzilla, where I thought he was pretty bland and pretty one note. He would speak, "Let them fight, Godzilla." You know, that was sort of his thing. He's doing some more of that here, but there is poignancy in his character and his development. I'm not going to get into that, but I actually cared about his character this time around, which goes to show that Doherty knows what he's doing a little bit more than Gareth Evans did. And so I cared about Ken Watanabe's character. I cared about his plight and sort of his neutral stance on things. And I really dug a line. I'm a big fan of biology. I study biology. I love all forms of life. And there's a line early on in the film where the council is asking him, you know, are you, it sounds like you admire these creatures. And he stands up and he says, "I admire all forms of life." And that line really sums up his character for me. He cares. He has hope in nature. He understands the indifference of nature. He understands the beauty of nature and the horror of it. So I really thought his character was sort of a naturalist, you know, Darwin-esque sort of a character, and I really dug him. I actually cared about him in this movie. The rest of the characters are there. They're not so much memorable, but they all serve their purpose. Ziyi Zhang is in it, you know, from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Chinese actress. I liked seeing her in an American movie. I always enjoy her presence. Not only is she a great actress, but she's beautiful, very ethereal look. We got a scene or two of her backstory, which I thought was really awesome, and it ties into the story of Mothra. Bradley Whitford plays the comic relief, and a lot of people had problems with this character. I didn't. I think maybe they should have toned down the comic relief just a tad, but he had a couple cringy lines. Like one where it was like, "Oh my god, Zilla." And he said, "Zilla." I get the joke. I get the in-joke. I didn't mind the line too much, but it's kind of cringy in a fun way. You know, these movies are fun. And I liked his character. I thought his timing was on point. He's a great actor, great character actor. And I enjoyed his comic relief, which was needed, really needed, because this film is intense and really kept me on the edge of my seat. Other than that, we do have a human villain in the film. He's not much of a villain, to be quite honest. I wish he was a little bit more intimidating and imposing and evil. But apparently, according to the stinger, we're going to be seeing more of him, which I'm okay with. That is Charles Dance, and I thought his character was good. I mean, he was sort of there in the background. Again, I wish he had more to do. Maybe in the future he will have more to do. I remember him from Last Action Hero, playing Benedict. And he's always imposing, and he's got a really unique, kind of gritty, what's the word, gruff look to him. And so it's always nice to see him, although he didn't have too much to do in the movie, admittedly. The human characters, I would wager a bet that you are going to care about them more. I did. I mean, to be honest, that's not saying much because of the 2014 Godzilla, where the characters were, besides Cranston, were bland as a piece of paper. And I'll, again, get into that in the future. And I will say, I even got emotional at a few points. Maybe because I was so invested in the movie and so invested in the action. And even some of the human characters, Millie Bobby Brown, Kyle Chandler, I really cared about their fates. And Ken Watanabe's character. And so I was really invested in those characters. And I got emotional at a few points. Not only from the monsters appearing and the build-up to the monsters and the unveiling of the monsters, those are obviously emotional parts for me. I get very excited. But in terms of poignancy and being moved, I was moved by a couple actions of the characters. So, I don't know. I think I'm in the minority there. I am an easily moved person when it comes to art and film and music. I'm very easily moved. Some may say too much, maybe, but it is what it is. I'm proud of it. So I actually was emotionally invested in some of these characters. So I think that says something. Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I love this movie, guys. It's definitely up there with some of my favorite Godzilla movies. It's one I'm going to go back to again and again when I want just a popcorn movie with epic action sequences and a booming score. And it's just fun. It's fun. It's 2 hours and 12 minutes, and it doesn't feel like it. Granted, the credits were probably around 10 to 15 minutes. It's paced really well. It's written tightly. There's a good amount of scientific mumbo jumbo, but I enjoyed it because I like picking holes in the logic because I have some background knowledge of the kind of stuff they're talking about. The CG, again, I thought was phenomenal. I thought it was really, really solid CG. There were a few shots where it was a bit questionable. But usually shots that didn't involve the monsters, ironically. So, like, there's this one shot where it shows the water and sort of pans up and shows fish kind of, they're dying, they're rising to the surface, and those fish looked like shit. So, like, really weird little shots like that I thought the CG just wasn't quite there. But for the most part, I'd say like 95% of the time, I was on board with the CG. It is a CG fest, don't get me wrong. But it's fun and well done. Like I said, this movie doesn't f*** around, it doesn't waste time, and it gives the audiences what they expect from a Godzilla film, and that is the monsters. We jump right into it. There are even other titans. You know, there's a map, basically, that has like 17 titans, they say, that they've discovered. And there are some new creatures. There's this weird woolly mammoth thing where it's like walking on its... I don't know. It's bizarre. But it has these huge tusks, and I really dug that guy. The Muto is even in it. And also the spider. And I can't remember, it starts with a B. I don't remember what the hell the spider's name was from Destroy All Monsters. But the spider even makes an appearance. I don't think it's the same monster, but it's definitely an homage to that monster. It's an arachnid sort of monster. So we even get new monsters here. We don't get to see them in too much action, but you know in the future we're going to see that. So that was really exciting. At the credits, by the way, of course, we have this rendition of Go Go Godzilla, you know, Godzilla by Blue Oyster Cult. So that was awesome to sit through, and of course I was there till the last moment. This film does have a stinger. So overall, guys, I really, really love this film. I had a blast in the theater. I'd have to put together a list, but it's like I said, I love all of the Godzilla films for different reasons. All of them for different reasons. That's part of the beauty of them. It's a very dynamic series. It's always changing. And so this one is up there. It's one of my favorites. Maybe top 10? I don't know. It's tough to say. I do want to rewatch it to get my final judgment on it, but I'm just so excited after I literally got out of the movie a half hour ago, and I was just so excited to come and talk about it with you guys because I really, really had a good time. And I hope you guys enjoyed this movie too. This is a f***ing Godzilla movie. It is a Godzilla movie through and through. We're finally here where America is making true Godzilla films. Ones that represent the monster and don't focus on boring human characters. And I'll get into that in the future. So I want to thank you guys for checking out this review. I'm dying to know what you guys thought of this movie because I don't see how any Godzilla fans could dislike it. I can't kind of wrap my head around that. And I'll go into the history of my past with Godzilla in the future. I'm not a lifelong Godzilla fan. I didn't grow up with them to make a short story out of it. But, you know, over the last decade, I've truly fallen in love with Godzilla and all of the movies and the monster universe. And I'm so glad that we have a universe here, the Monsterverse, that seems to be working. It's making money. The films are fun, save for Godzilla 2014. Kong Skull Island is fun. This is even better. Hopefully, they keep up this trend. Get directors that are passionate about the intellectual property. Michael Dougherty absolutely is. There's no doubt in my mind. I've never heard him talk about it, but just seeing this film, I know he's passionate about it. So please, in the comments below, leave how you guys felt about this movie. I'm dying to talk about it. And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to hit the subscribe button, as well as the little bell for notifications. Anyways, guys, I will see you all next time. Bored Cyborg out.